but don't get too comfortable. We have gotten our solid foundation. We're working at the day job as hard as we can.
Hard work, I earn my pay.
We've been scheming to get out of that day job, but now we've come to a point of surrender, and we are gonna figure out a way to be okay and to be content and somewhat comfortable in this day job that we're not so happy with. So I'm at Sunglass Hut because you probably didn't even know what Sunglass Hut was until I said it. I had come to a point of surrender to just grow at Sunglass Hut. And for me, I'm always thinking about, okay, how can I get to the top? I'll just be very honest. I'm always like, well, how can I progress to the highest level that I can? Like, I'm about to be the CEO of this place. If I have to stay here, I'm gonna figure it out. So I concocted a plan because at that time, I don't remember what was happening in the world during that time, but I think that sales were not as good across the company. I had some ideas of what I thought would help our store be better, and I submitted those ideas. We had a new regional vice president by this time. His name was Jared, and I submitted it to him, and he said he was gonna look it over and he was going to tell me whether he liked it or not. So then maybe 2 or 3 weeks had passed, and he told me that he submitted it to his boss because he was impressed by whatever I said, and he thought that it could be really beneficial to not just our store but to the company. But they would start with our store to test out whatever it was that I said. And I was really excited about it because I'm like, okay, finally I can find my way in here. We're about to start on this plan. And remember, I told you my friend Elena had told me about the opportunity to be a PA on a John Travolta film that was coming to town. Later on, maybe a week or so after that, is when she told me about they pushed the filming, so you can still apply. I was like, Lord, well now you to let me get to this point where I'm actually satisfied with being here. Like, I can see my way through. I think I had even said something about implementing some sort of film program within the company because I felt like they could have more exposure and more advertising. I was like, Lord, now what you doing, honey? What is you doing? I applied and I ended up getting the job. But one thing that I want to point out is, for one, don't get too comfortable where you are, especially if you know it's not where you want to go. It's okay to be content with where you are, but don't get too comfortable. And I don't think I gave up hope. I just was gonna carve out my own way instead of really being patient with what God was telling me to do. But you have to be willing to do something different. I also told you all about me not wanting to do social media, and a huge part of my not wanting to engage in social media is because I was a bit sheltered as I was growing up. And when social media came out, all of my friends had it and I didn't have it because my mom, like, she wouldn't even let me get texting until I had a phone for like 3 years before I was even allowed to text. So I wasn't really stuck on social media or media in general. Like, I was just doing my own thing, but all of my friends were on Instagram, and I just remember if they didn't get a certain amount of likes or if they didn't have a certain amount of followers, then they didn't feel, basically it validated them, and they felt inferior if they didn't have what social media was telling them they should have. So that was a huge reason why I didn't want to get social media, because I didn't want to be validated by whatever people online were saying, people I knew and didn't know. I didn't want to be validated by anybody but God. But at the same time, when God has something for you, he gonna make sure you get it. So they could have filmed that freaking movie months ago, but it's like, okay, Alesha, you asked me for this, here's your opportunity. And he presented it to me again at the right time because my heart posture was in the right place. And I know If you go to church, a lot of people say your heart posture, but it's a real thing. Like when you have really surrendered whatever your will is to whatever you hope God's will is and start walking that way, and he sees like, okay, she's actually after, or he's actually after what it is that I call them to do, then he gonna turn some stuff around and you're gonna get to the destination. And it might not be in the way that you think it should be, but it's going to be in the way that is best for you. I got on Facebook and I applied to it, got the job. We already know this. But for about a year and a half after that, I don't know why I have so much spit in my mouth today, but...
People, please. Settle, please.
For about a year and a half after that is where I got the bulk of my opportunities. Some of them were paid, some of them were not. A lot of them were small indie films, but on the small stuff is where you actually have the most room to grow and where you get the most experience and where you get the most exposure to everything, because they actually need whatever helping hand you can give them. So don't sleep on the small jobs, because those are the places that are going to get you to where it is that you want to be. So I would just encourage you to not get too comfortable, to surrender to where you are at that moment and do your absolute best to be great at that. And then also be willing to do something different. Nothing that's going to be soul sucking or harmful to you. But I mean, you know the boundaries, honey. You're a grown person. If you know, I don't know. You gotta know, okay? I'm just telling you what I did. As I do this series and I have to think about where I came from to get here, I'm like, man, if I hadn't have gone through all of that, if I hadn't have experienced all of those obstacles and overcome them, I would not be good right now. Like it's possible that I wouldn't be where I am in the industry right now. And I believe I have reached some level of success. I know I have reached some level of success for myself. So yeah, thank you for watching. There's just one more episode in this series, but it's gonna be so many more. At least that's what I planned, but we're gonna see what happens. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.